Live from our studios here at Koko Mlimle in Accra, this is Joy News Prime with me, Carlos Kaloni. Coming up, fireworks in Parliament, tempest flare in the House as minority blocks government importation restriction regulation for the third time.
It looks clearly that it is not properly thought through. It looks like something that President Akufo-Addo and Honorable K.T. Hammond and Honorable Bawumia sat up in their office and just wrote it without proper policy.
We have more details as Parliament resolves to have leaders on both sides dialogue on the matter and come to an agreement.
Should factor the amendments and we submit same on Monday. That will come, as I said, with some challenges. Getting the number of days to have it mature before we adjourn on the 22nd of December.
And if you notice an increase in your water bill beginning next month, just remember Galamsey pollution is making water treatment more expensive.
Then alum has become kind of inefficient against treating potable water now because of the turbid nature of the water. So they've moved on from alum to another chemical they call polymer. So now polymer is about 5 times the price of alum. So it's much more expensive to treat water using polymer.
We have Prime Business at 8 p.m.
And gold, mineral fuels and oils constituted 64% of Ghana's exports for the first half of this year.
Prime Sports at 8:30.
For Ghanaian champions, Medium are confident of positive results ahead of their CAF Champions League encounter against African giant Al Ahly.
You can watch Joy News on DSTV channel 421, GoTV 125. You're live on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. On all socials, we are your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Stay with us.
Joy News Prime headlines was brought to you by
Don't take risks. Use a condom every time.
And thanks to Malatu, I kicked out malaria one time.
Some spices, yes, sir.
We are grateful for your time. Let's begin from Parliament, where majority and minority members of Parliament exchange heated words when, for the third time, the minority prevented the government from laying the new regulations seeking to prevent the importation of selected products, including rice and sugar, without authorization from the Minister for Trade. Now, on 2 occasions, the minority scuttled plans to lay the regulation, which they say are strongly opposed to because it gives the Minister for Trade unbridled power. Now, Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante reports.
Tensions in Parliament as the minority, for the third time this week, scuttle the plans of government to lay a proposed regulation which will seek to restrict the importation of rice, sugar, and a host of other products that the government calls strategic products. 2 times in this week, the minority have blocked the laying of the CI. Today, the government side tried again to get it through the field. Listen to the majority leader appeal to the minority MPs to allow this law to be laid in the House.
I want to plead with colleagues to allow the Minister for Trade and Industry to present the paper on behalf of this ministry to us.
But the minority will not allow this. In fact, their strategy was first to raise issues of quorum.
To raise quorum under Order 48 of our standing orders. Mr. Speaker, looking at the numbers in the chamber, we do not have quorum to transact business.
Then Ahmed Ibrahim, the first deputy minority whip, came in to advance the argument the minority have been making that this law was simply bad law and should not be made to stand.
We are going to lay an instrument to control and restrict import, which will go against the WTO conventions, making a passionate appeal to the colleague leadership and to your good self that we must not ambush the Speaker in this way. He has utmost trust in you and has given the seat to you. We must not treat him this way. I end my case.
But the Minister for Trade and Industry, who is sponsoring this regulation in the House, was furious. He believes the NDC MPs think of themselves as representatives of the people more than them, and he was quick to slam them for opposing this very law.
I find it extremely appalling that a member of this House could threaten a sitting, a competent, and the legally elected deputy speaker, a second deputy speaker of the House. I find it atrocious. It is in bad taste. Who is he appealing to? They have no say in whether an ally is laid in this House or not. No one, not even with respect to the Speaker. The Speaker has absolutely no right over whether a legislative instrument is laid in this House. It is revolting for them to suggest that they are here to represent good people of Ghana. You think we are here to represent the bad people of whatever country? What the hell are you talking about? Because I am a British trained barrister at law. I don't think.
This is when tensions began to inflame in the House, when Ama Kofi-Buah, clearly not happy with the comments of the Trade Minister, fired back.
It's important we note, right now, Speaker, please. It's important we state that we have serious concerns about these regulations. I'll read you one of them. This minister should be given the power to decide that tomorrow morning I don't feel good, your license is cancelled. We should give him that power. I read your document and we don't accept it.
Is it a question that you will not accept it?
And at some point, MPs on both sides were on their feet, banging the tables. The decision ultimately was to defer decision on laying this law until the Trade Minister incorporates some amendments into the law.
The Minister should factor the amendments and resubmit same on Monday. That will come, as I said, with some challenges. Getting the number of days to have it mature before we adjourn on the 22nd of December. But let's get there. I guess we can find a way around it.
Following this, the minority leader and his team organized a news conference within the precincts of Parliament where they reiterated their opposition to this law.
I believe that these regulations, going back to this very archaic, import license regime, that has been fraught with so many challenges, especially allowing the minister the power not only to approve a license, but wake up one morning and say that I have revoked your license.
It looks clearly that it is not properly thought through. It looks like something that President Akufo-Addo and Honorable K.T. Hammond and Honorable Bawumia sat up in their office and just wrote it without proper policy. This regulation is giving so much powers, excessive powers, to one man, the minister responsible for trade and industry. In this case, Honorable K.T. Hammond. Before you import them, you have to go and see him in chambers. And two, you will need to apply for import permit. Import permit. And when the permit is granted, a committee that will be established. When the committee grants that permit, going forward, it is only the minister who can renew the permit. And the same minister can cancel that permit.
And with barely 3 weeks for Parliament to go on break, the government side will try and lay this. The minority side will also try to block it and will lead to tensions rising on the floor, even as MPs consider the budget estimates that was presented by Ken Ofori-Atta last week. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Now, Minister for Defense Dominic Neto says the 2024 budget has made adequate commitment to safeguarding the country's peace and security. Now, debating the 2024 budget in Parliament, Mr. Neto argued that had it not been for President Akufo-Addo's government extraordinary funding of the security services, terrorists would have taken over the country as they have done in other countries in West and the Sahel. The minister also revealed military lands sold under the NDC have been retrieved under his watch as Minister for Defense.
Mr. Speaker, this government has taken the largest infrastructure development since 1992 within the Ghana Armed Forces. How many multiple rocket launchers did you get under this government as compared to any other government? Any other equipment I can say for the army, we have provided more than anybody. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to training and manpower, we have added to the stock of the armed forces more than any other government. We've opened a new training site at both a new training site we have opened at Jungle Warfare School. We have opened a new training site at Boya. We have opened new training sites at Nokoto for the Navy than any other government. We are doing all this, Mr. Speaker, because we want Ghana to be safe. Ghana is sitting in the midst of countries that are suffering from terrorist attacks. We have been safe because we are acting proactively. If we were not doing that, Mr. Speaker, Ghana would have been where other countries are. Today, you cannot walk freely beyond 5 p.m. in Burkina, in Mali, in Niger, parts of Nigeria, and Chad, and many of these places. But today, honorable members of parliament and any other person can walk midnight with their chest out.
But former Minority Leader Haruna Iddrisu said the claims cannot be true. He described the allocation to all the security ministries as wholly inadequate. Now, Haruna Iddrisu has also been criticizing government and the finance ministry for the low funds allocated to anti-corruption institutions.
I expected him together with his senior brother that he's sitting with, the Honorable Minister for Interior, the Honorable Ambrose Derry, to express disappointment that the Interministerial Committee of the security ministers, your requirement, even as we consult quietly, was for government to make available to you at least $2.5 billion in order for you to be able to contain terrorism, the threat of it in our country, equip both the military and the Ghana police to adequately prepare and to get you ready to keep our country safe, secured, and peaceful. Mr. Speaker, again, when you look at the budget, Office of Special Prosecutor, you want to combat corruption. A special prosecutor from Martin Hamidou to the current person in office is saying that we don't have enough resources to combat corruption. Mr. Speaker, what is it that we spend on him? Whether it's 149 million or 129 million in 2023, the money he is likely to recoup and the prevention he is likely to make in his quest to combat corruption far more exceeds what we should be giving him. So we expect you to adequately resource the Office of the Special Prosecutor and stop this excuse. Even recruitment, he is struggling to get just the core people that will work with him to make this corruption fight a reality.
Meanwhile, Minister for the Interior Ambrose Derry has assured the 2024 elections will be the safest in the country's recent history. He explained enough body cams and other logistics have been made available to police and allied institutions ahead of the crucial 2024 elections.
Mr. Speaker, at paragraph 897, we're talking about the National Peace Council undertaking education to ensure that we promote greater tolerance within our country. What we want to ensure is that we work against violent extremism, vigilantism. The council will also ensure that political actors do make statements with care to make sure that we don't increase the tension in this country. And I can assure you, as has been requested by the Honorable Haruna Iddrisu, of the safety in next year's presidential and parliamentary election. You can take it from me that the police service and other agencies are going to work hard to achieve that. And it's in that regard that we are looking for body cams to enhance the accountability of our operatives, to ensure that when there is a need to find out what happened, there will be an authentic source of information as to their behavior. So rest assured that the election will be free and fair, and we would break the 8.
But ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee, James Agaga, criticized the allocation made to the security agencies.
the allocations to the ministries of Interior, National Security, and Defense put together is below 1% of GDP. And yet, if you consider the fact that we are bedeviled with so many security challenges, the threat of terrorism from the northern frontier, the threats emerging from the Gulf of Guinea, which has made it necessary for the Ministry of Defense to start the construction of the FOB at Ezilibu, you would understand that this government is not committed to ensuring that the citizens of this country live in an atmosphere of peace and security. This country, per the country's constitution, the president is the commander-in-chief of our armed forces. He is also the chairman of the National Security Council, whilst the vice president, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, is the chairman of the Police Council and the chairman of the Armed Forces Council. And so, when there are issues, challenges with our armed forces and with our police service, you can place the blame squarely at the doorsteps of our president and our vice president. In conclusion, Minister for Defense said they constructed the military academy. It was in phases. The officers' mess was completed. The drawings for the military academy were ready before the Minister for Defense came to office.
Now, away from Parliament, if you see an increase in your water bills beginning next month, just remember the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC, has increased the tariff of water by 0.34%. Now, the PRC says it costs the Ghana Water Company more to treat water due to the high levels of pollution of water bodies caused by the illegal mining miners. Now, according to the commission, the current chemical used to treat the high turbid water costs 5 times more compared to the previous chemical, hence impacting water tariff effective December 1. The Director of Research and Corporate Affairs at the PURC, Dr. Eric Obute, spoke exclusively to Joy News.
The major component which led to a marginal increase in the water price was that of the exchange rate. The cedi depreciated marginally against the dollar by 3.7% over the period that we are looking at. So with this 3.7% increase in the exchange rate, it led to a marginal increase in the tariff of Ghana Water. Mind you, Ghana Water has to change a lot more of this to buy chemicals. The chemicals that they were previously using to treat the water was alum. But then alum has become kind of inefficient against treating potable water now because of the turbid nature of the water. So they've moved on from alum to another chemical they call polymer. So now polymer is about 5 times the price of alum. So it's much more expensive to treat water using polymer. And polymer, obviously, we don't produce in this country, so we need to import. And they need a forex to import that one. So that's how come theirs has gone up marginally by 0.34%.
Now, joining us via Zoom for a conversation on this matter is the communications manager for the Ghana Water Company Limited, Stanley Mate. Hi, Stanley. You must be excited. You got an increase this time.
Excited? No, I don't think I am, because the increase is just marginal. But they are regulators, and whatever lies in their wisdom in doing what they have done, we accept and work with it. I mean, it's been so from time immemorial. We would have expected a higher or a better increase. But what can we say? We will still continue to work hard with the little that we have.
So what figure would have worked for you?
I don't think it's necessary at this moment. I mean, before the major tariff review, we are requested for a 300% increase. What do we get? And so for now, I'll plead with you that we just go ahead with what we have currently.
All right.
Sorry
so
about that.
Okay, so the PURC says high turbidity of the water for treatment is the underlying cause for this particular increment. Paint the picture to us. How is this affecting your operation, the fact that the water levels and its quality is so low?
Yeah, yes, it is true, and that's about the major component which is affecting us currently. So there are a number of issues, okay? Now, with a high turbidity, one, what makes the water turbid is stone particles and sand particles, okay? And so when our pumps obstruct the water, the pumps are not actually built for abstraction of stone particles. So they get into the pumps and then they rather damage the pumps. So sometimes, or in order to maintain the pumps, you have had to shut down almost every week to clean up the pumps. Okay, if we do not do that, then we lose the pumps. Now, for instance, our Sachaman treatment plant, which is on the Pra River, in the last 3 years, we have lost 6 pumps. Okay, brand new pumps that cost us millions of dollars. We have lost within a space of 3 years. Okay, so you can imagine what is happening in the Boise, what is happening in Bosumase, and other areas where we are using the same pumps and abstracting the same turbid water. Apart from losing our pumps, now we have had to use very expensive chemical. The alum is no longer effective in clearing the turbidity. So we have had to use a more concentrated compound of the alum, which is called the polymer, okay, which is about 5 to 6 times the cost of the aluminum sulfate. So it's becoming increasingly expensive to treat water. It's not even about alone, but even the other river bodies that we are using, like the Densu, even the Volta, and the other rivers, the Black Volta, the Nawuni, this thing, that in the Volta on in the pond treatment plant, where hitherto we were not using much chemical. Now we have had to use more chemicals because the turbidity keeps increasing. So it's important that we all fight against not only Galamsey, but the pollution of our river bodies. Okay, it's because any other form of pollution affects us. So now I've talked about how it affects our pumps, our equipment, and because of that, we have had to be changing them and maintaining them often. And then I've talked about the fact that we are using more chemical, which is making the cost of production very expensive. Okay.
All right.
Now, yeah, so these are the two major issues when it comes to the turbidity of the water. Now, the other thing that is coming up, which is making cost of production or this thing very expensive, is the fact that people do not go to pay their bills. They are waiting for us to expend more funds in coming to chase them to collect our monies.
Okay.
Okay. Now we send our reports to PULC. I'll expend this thing, our CAPEX, our OPEX, and everything to PULC. So they look at that and use that ratio of the tariff. So if we are using more money, more fuel, more resources in coming to chase our customers for our money, it makes our expenditure that high, and definitely it also affects the tariff. These are things that we have control over. What we want our customers to do is that after we have managed to do our part, or how do I say it? After we manage to complete our part of the contract, okay, our expectation is that they will also do theirs by paying their bills.
All right.
Okay, it's a contract between us and our customers. We are able to do ours, and then what you expect that the customers also do theirs. But if the customers are also waiting for us to come and chase them before we collect our money, then it makes it more expensive.
Okay.
So please, all our customers must make it as part of their monthly budget to be paying their
bills on time. All right.
Yes, we will be spending more money in chasing them for the little that we have to collect from them.
All right. Thank you so much, Stanley Mate. Unfortunately, we have to leave it here. We really appreciate your time. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. Thank you so much. We believe we'll come back to you another time for update on this particular issue. But moving on into politics, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has a lot of jobs in his sleeves for John Mahama, says the Member of Parliament for Efidiasi Asokore, Dr. Ayu Afriye. His comment comes on the heels of the recent attack by the NPP flag bearer on John Mahama's campaign promise of a 24-hour economy. Nana Ojima was at the Kumasi Central Mosque where the Vice President joined the Juma prayers and filed this report.
The Vice President, after an official assignment at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, made a stop at the Kumasi Central Mosque. Dr. Mahmoud Baumia was in the company of defeated NPP flag-bearer aspirant Kwabena Ejapon and other government officials. Coordinator for the Zongo Development Secretariat, Ben Abdallah Banda, called for support for Dr. Baumia.
President Akufo-Addo has done his part and continues to do so. It is now time for Dr. Mahmoud Baumia to take over. I will urge all to support Dr. Baumia to ascend the throne. He will overwhelm us when he becomes president.
The Vice President, who is visiting the Kumasi Central Mosque for the first time after being elected flag-bearer of the NPP, was mobbed by the people. In excitement, they sang in anticipation of a Dr. Baumia government. Dr. Ayu Efriye, who was campaign coordinator for Dr. Baumia in the party primary, says the NPP flag-bearer has received warm reception from all after the election.
It's massive. It's somebody who says organic. Natural love for Baumia. It's as if people felt it was impossible for him to have been elected for. And that natural love is driving everybody. It's one of the kind that is so different. You see people who attest in the north like me, I'm not MPP, but look, you guys have surprised me. Me and my family, we are doing Baumia. So God has spoken, God will speak.
In reacting to public sentiments to jabs thrown at the NDC flag-bearer, John Mahama, Dr. Efriye says more will follow. He reveals solution to challenges of the country will be preferred.
He's not even started. He has a lot up his sleeves. If this is what he is saying, then Baumia has a lot up his sleeves. He will throw a lot of jabs because for John Mahama, there are a lot of jabs for him, no two ways. And he's also going to provide the alternative. In spite of the jabs, which is part of politics, Baumia is going to tell you the alternative and where we have to go to and how we got to do it. He's the best man for the job now.
Meanwhile, the Vice President has launched a Quranic recitation competition in Kumasi. Winner of the competition will take home a Kia Picanto vehicle. Ali Raj is organizer.
We have a lot of children who are well educated, but people don't see them and we don't encourage them. So the committee added on their Quran recitation that it is time for us to motivate the Arabic schools, for them to, you see, when you do things like this, it will encourage the parents to bring their children there because tomorrow they want their children to be the best.
For Joy News, Nana Ojima, Kumasi.
You're still watching Joy News Prime with me, Carlos Calone. We'll take a short break. We'll return with more. The National Democratic Congress in the Northeast region has charged watermelon farmers in the region to vote against Dr. Mahmoud Baumia and the NPP government in the upcoming election. The call comes as watermelon farmers in the region are blaming the government for the continued post-harvest losses they face. Many of their produce rots on the farms due to a lack of ready markets. Now, the farmers who are unable to sell their produce, leading to a glut, claim the government had encouraged them to engage in large-scale cultivation of the melon with the assurance of the readiness of the intake factory to buy from them. At a joint press conference in front of the uncompleted watermelon factory in Wale Wale, the chairman of watermelon farmers in Wale Wale, Ziblim Seydou, said some farmers who heeded a government offer and contracted loans for commercial production have been rendered bankrupt with heavy debt and severe suffering. My colleague, correspondent Elias Otanko, reports.
It is another period for the harvesting of watermelons in part of the northeast region, and as usual, some farmers and traders are already worried about post-harvest losses due to the lack of market for the produce. Thousands of men and women in the region are engaged in the annual production of watermelon, but production always outweighs demand, often leading to a glut during the peak season. Whilst the produce is rotting away on the farm, sellers like 25-year-old Mumin Ubeda are also counting huge losses with constant suffering to get buyers. Ubeda sells her watermelon along the Nasia Wale stretch of the Tamale-Bolaga highway. I am worried that the factory is not operational. If the factory was working, our losses would have been minimized. There is no market, and as a result, the melons get rotten and plunge us into debt. Watermelon farmers in the region lose their investment every season as the melons get rotten due to the lack of buyers. To address this perennial problem, the MPP promised to establish a watermelon juice processing company, and in 2019, the Vice President, now the MPP presidential candidate Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, cut short for the construction of the facility to be completed in 2020. However, 4 years after the construction started, the facility is not only far from being completed, but work has stopped since 2021. As farmers are witnessing a watermelon glut due to the lack of buyers, the NDC in the region organized a joint press conference with the leadership of the Association of Watermelon Farmers to highlight the problem and demand from the MPP the completion of the watermelon factory. After touring the uncompleted factory, the chairman of the watermelon farmers, Mohamed Yidana, spoke on their behalf. You will be saddened if you visit our farms to see the quantity of melons rotting away. The government asked us to cultivate the melon in commercial quantities with a promise of a watermelon processing factory. We invested all our resources, and some even took loans from banks. Now those people are suffering, yet there is still no factory. The chairman accused Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia of deceit and criticized the government for worsening the plight of watermelon farmers in the region. It is shameful Dr. Bawumia, our own kinsman, is doing to us. He is not honest about almost everything. He has deceived our chiefs and other revered personalities in the region. This factory isn't completed, yet they are spreading lies about the project. On their part, the regional communications officer of the NDC, A.A. Gafaru, said the MPP in its 7th year in government was yet to build a single factory, and that Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia has gone contrary to all the promises he made to his own people.
It is without doubt that the Northeast region, from where the Vice President and Chairman of the Economic Management Team, Alhaji Bawumia hails, has lagged behind in terms of its fair share of development under the current government. As members of the National Democratic Congress and sons and daughters of Northeast region, we are deeply concerned and disappointed with the state of affairs. Like the rest of the country, we cannot but observe that apart from his deceptive rhetoric, the Northeast region, including Wale constituency, which is the home of the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, cannot boast of any viable factory under the much-touted One District, One Factory. After 7 years in government, not a single factory has been constructed and operational in any of the districts in the region.
The NDC also added that the Vice President could not be trusted even by his own people, and therefore warned Ghanaians to exercise sound judgment when considering his promises.
It is evident that if Dr. Bawumia, as a Vice President, struggles to manage a region of just 6 districts, it raises serious concern about his capacity and capability to lead the nation effectively and with honesty. Exactly. We can state without any hesitation and equivocation that in the unlikely event that Dr. Bawumia becomes president, it will spell doom and disaster for our nation, as he has become an unmitigated disaster and a phantom of a vice president to even his own people and the entire Northeast region. We wish to call on our uncle and Vice President Alhaji Bawumia to return to his constituency and fulfill the promises and commitments he made to his kinsmen. He must render an unqualified apology to our respected traditional leaders, religious leaders, people of Wale Wale, and particularly the thousands of watermelon farmers for the broken promises and the distress this has caused them therein.
For Joy News, Elias Sutanko reporting.
Fellow Ghanaians, there has been a lot of talk lately about Ghana's operation of a 24-hour economy. There have been those who have openly supported the move and others who have not been so sure, even casting it away as useless. Yes, there have been optimists and pessimists from both ends of our political divide. But what really lies in there for Ghanaians is the question. Here is former President John Dramani Mahama espousing his ideas on a 24-hour economy.
It is our policy, we'll implement it. It's not by force. When we come, we'll open it. The initiative is available. Any company that wants to work a shift system and work more than the 8 hours that they normally work, from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, they will sign on and we'll give them tax incentives. Because if you work the extra shift, you will be given tax breaks. Aside from that, you'll be provided with security and everything that you need to be able to employ more people. And so it's a project that we will adopt. We have a group of experts working on it. We'll roll out the policy, and companies that voluntarily want to sign on will be allowed to do so.
But the response from his opposite number on the side of the MPP was swift, fun-poking, and denigratory.
Because of digitalization, the banks, you can transfer money 24 hours. You can receive money 24 hours. Isn't it? So he doesn't understand his own policy. It does not make sense.
But maybe, just maybe, the back and forth was stoked by the Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress, Dr. Yao Ban, himself an economist, leading to the trade-offs between the country's two major political parties.
We are also very interested and we are eager to know a lot more about his great idea of a 24-hour economy. I can imagine the amount of jobs that this kind of thing will create. That could be the game changer. I'm telling you that you have opportunities in this country. We work 24 hours, 3 shifts. So if you don't get a job in the morning, you can get it in the afternoon or in the night.
Maybe the suggestion by Dr. Ban that a 24-hour economy could be a game changer for Ghana was the bone of contention and the cause for this long-drawn debate. Why else, for example, would this same administration, and in fact the vice president, vilify the 24-hour economy and yet proffer on pages 92 and 93 of the 2024 budget statement moves for things like a night and sport economy, night economy and tourism, developing the Black Star Square into a city light center, all in a bid to drive the night economy in Accra, and the creation of a welcoming nighttime environment, and the use of astroturfs to create vibrant night economies in their host communities. Why, I ask, was all of that conveniently snuck in? Our VP went as far as suggesting that Ghana already had a thriving 24-hour economy, citing hospitals, filling stations, and chop bars. Yes, he did, chop bars, as proof. He then promised a new vision with a new policy that would transform this country. Chop bars, dear Vice President? Sure, they could feed into the grand scheme of things, but I think we could do better. As Dr. Nimoy Thompson, a former Director General of the National Development Planning Commission, notes in his take on the subject, a 24-hour economy is about more than keeping a few establishments open around the clock or lighted astroturfs at night. It's a multi-dimensional strategy for economic transformation where businesses that operate during the day are strengthened and conditions are created for others across the country, not just Accra, to rise or thrive in an interconnected world that never sleeps. It's about a country living to its fullest potential, not settling for mediocrity over chop bars. In the final analysis, though, we see how other countries and cities have planned to take advantage of and actually gone ahead to take advantage of a 24-hour economic cycle. I ask, why not Ghana? London's night economy moved from £17.7 billion to £26.3 billion in 2014. The projected growth rate on the back of that was £1.63 billion yearly by 2026. It's still going on. As far as jobs are concerned, London's night economy produced 1.2 million jobs at a growth rate of 66,000 additional jobs yearly. Ghana could do with that. In Sydney, Australia, the economic value of their 24-hour economy as far as nighttime was concerned stood at $27.2 billion. That created 234,000 jobs. American cities like New York and Las Vegas have a thriving nighttime economy that runs a three-pronged or three-shift system of 8 hours each. Japan's metropolises like Tokyo boast a vibrant night economy that delivers convenience store options, public transportation, and others 24/7, enhancing employment opportunities. How about South Korea? It does same. I could drone on and on with Singapore, Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, and many others. But just like with free SHS, which is a very good policy, which unfortunately is being handled poorly, I see another trajectory of a sitting government, just like when the NDC was in power and faced with free SHS, making costly jokes about something that is in fact a game changer for the people. So I ask you, watching tonight, can we do it? Will we do it? Do we need it? One thing is certain. There is no better time to set the ball rolling. It matters not which party does it. If it is good and workable, can we look beyond the politics and do what is right for you and for me and for Mother Ghana?